yet.
Right. Hybern is amassing his forces, and the fate of Prythian hangs in the balance.
Buckle up, listeners, because it's about to get intense. And we were talking about Feyre and her sisters, right?
Oh, Elaine and Nesta.
Yeah, it's supposed to be this happy reunion, but
It's not.
no, not at all.
They've all been through so much trauma.
Exactly.
And it's really changed them.
Welcome back to Witter, your deep dives for busy minds. You know, we're back with another deep dive into the A Court of Thorns and Roses series.
Yes, picking up right where we left off.
This time with A Court of Wings and Ruin, Book 3 of 5.
That's right.
This book, it's a turning point.
Absolutely, a real turning point.
So if you've been following along, get ready. Feyre's world is about to get rocked. And for anyone just joining us, we'll buckle up.
Yeah, you're in for a wild ride. Because this is where everything really starts to come to a head. We've got Feyre undercover in the spring court.
Right, pretending to be Tamlin's broken little birdie.
Exactly, but she's anything but broken. She's playing a very dangerous game, gathering intel on Hybern and plotting her rebellion.
She's a secret agent in Fairyland.
Pretty much. And she's brilliant at it, but it takes a toll, you know, living a lie like that.
Well, there's that line where she says, honestly, I don't know how none of them connected it, how none of them saw my words as not a strange coincidence, but a dare, a threat.
Yeah, that one always sends chills down my spine. It shows just how much pressure she's under.
She's constantly looking over her shoulder, always one step ahead of her enemies, even orchestrating that whole Naga attack.
Oh, that was a masterstroke. Pure chaos.
And she used it to her advantage, to further sow discord within the spring court. It's almost like she's playing 3D chess while everyone else is stumbling around in the dark.
And it highlights how much she's grown since the first book. She's not just a skilled huntress anymore. She's a strategist, a manipulator, a force to be reckoned with.
Don't underestimate Feyre. She'll surprise you every time. But speaking of surprises...
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Lucien. Poor, conflicted Lucien. He's always been caught between a rock and a hard place. His
loyalty to the spring court, his budding friendship with Feyre, and then... bam.
The parentage bombshell drops. Turns out, he's not Tamlin's brother after all, but Helian's son.
High Lord of the Day Court. Talk about a game changer.
Right. Suddenly, everything about Lucien clicks into place. His personality, his sense of justice, his protectiveness towards Feyre.
Even that line where he says, Feyre, you're going back to the Night Court. He's so worried about her, but he knows she's better off with Rysand.
It's like Maas peeled back a layer of his character and showed us this whole new depth.
Fair.
And then, just when you think things can't get any more complicated,
Feyre's sisters enter the picture.
Elaine and Nesta.
It's supposed to be a joyous reunion, right? Sisters reunited after being held captive.
But it's anything but. Elaine is withdrawn, haunted by these strange visions.
Yeah, remember when she talks about seeing young hands wither with age? A box of black stone, a feather of fire land on snow and melt it? So creepy.
Chilling. It's clear that something happened to her while she was under the mountain, something that changed her.
And then there's Nesta. She's furious, rebellious. But there's also this power simmering beneath the surface, a raw, untamed power that's linked to the cauldron.
It's like she's a ticking time bomb ready to explode.
And we're left wondering, whose side is she really on? What will she do with this power?
Oh, the drama. And we haven't even gotten to the war yet.
Right. Hybern is amassing his forces, and the fate of Prythian hangs in the balance.
Buckle up, listeners, because it's about to get intense. And we were talking about Feyre and her sisters, right?
Oh, Elaine and Nesta.
Yeah, it's supposed to be this happy reunion, but...
It's not.
No, not at all.
They've all been through so much trauma.
Exactly.
And it's really changed them, especially Elaine. She's so withdrawn. And those visions she's having.
Those visions are terrifying.
Yeah, like the one where she says she saw young hands wither with age, a box of black stone. A feather of fireland on snow and melt it.
It makes you wonder what really happened to her under the mountain.
Yeah, what did that cauldron do to her?
And then there's Nesta.
Oh, Nesta, she's a whole other story.
She's angry,
Oh, yeah, furious.
And rightfully so.
But there's also this power in her now, this raw, almost primal power. And it's connected to the cauldron, too.
That's like she's a completely different person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the cauldron awakened something in her, something powerful and dangerous. But let's not forget, all of this is happening with a war on the horizon.
Right. Hybern's forces are gathering and...
Oh, and that meeting with the High Lords. Talk about a tense situation.
Oh my goodness, the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. It's like watching a powder keg about to explode.
And Tamlin? Oh boy, Tamlin. He is not happy. Still holding on to that possessiveness over Feyre.
He's not dealing with the rejection well at all.
But the way Rysand just shuts him down, it's so satisfying. That line where he's like, Feyre did not dishonor or betray Tamlin. I revealed the mating bond months later, and she gave me hell for it, don't worry.
Yeah, Rysand knows how to put Tamlin in his place.
It's a total mic drop moment. But with Lucien's parentage reveal, it just throws another wrench into the whole High Lord dynamic.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Helion, the High Lord of the Day Court, has a personal stake in this whole mess.
Right. His own son is right in the middle of it all.
It's like all these personal relationships are colliding with this massive war that's brewing.
And it makes you realize that these High Lords, they're not just these powerful ancient beings. They have families, they have feelings, and they make mistakes just like everyone else. And sometimes those mistakes have huge consequences.
Especially when you're dealing with a power like the Cauldron. And with the war looming, everyone is having to make sacrifices.
Rysand, Feyre, even Lucien, they're all pushing themselves to the limit, both physically and emotionally. They're risking everything to protect what they love.
It's a reminder that even in a fantasy world, there are real stakes and real consequences.
And then we have the Bone Carver. Talk about a creepy character.
Oh, he's definitely one of the most intriguing characters introduced in this book. This ancient, powerful being who holds the key to defeating Hybern.
But the price he demands, yikes.
It's a steep price. Feyre and Rysand have to confront their deepest fears, delve into the darkest parts of themselves.
It really makes you question, is there such a thing as too far? Is any victory worth that kind of sacrifice?
That's the moral dilemma at the heart of this book, and it's something that every character has to grapple with.
But even with all this darkness and uncertainty, there are still moments of hope. Like when Feyre unleashes her power at the High Lord's meeting, declaring, I will use these powers, my powers, to smash Hybern to bits. I will burn them and drown them and freeze them.
That's such a powerful moment. It shows how much she's grown, how determined she is to protect her loved ones.
She's not afraid to fight. She's not afraid to embrace her power.
But that declaration also puts a huge target on her back. Hybern is going to come after her with everything he's got.
Oh, I know. It makes me nervous just thinking about it. So we've got these personal struggles, these massive sacrifices, and this impending war that's going to change everything.
And Feyre, right at the center of it all, facing impossible choices. So much happening.
I know, right? We left off with Feyre basically painting a target on her back.
Oh yeah, Hybern's not going to let that go.
But that's what makes this book so good.
So good.
It's not just about the big battles and the war and all that.
Right.
It's about the characters and how they're dealing with all this pressure.
Exactly.
Like, remember when Nesta and Feyre's father shows up with his fleet?
Oh, man, talk about a game changer.
It's not just that they bring much-needed reinforcements.
Yeah, they bring a whole fleet.
Right, but it's also this emotional reunion.
Oh, absolutely. Family coming together when it matters most. Gives me chills every time I read it.
Me too. It's like, even in the middle of all this chaos, there's still room for hope and love.
And speaking of hope, Feyre, she really steps up in this book.
Oh, yeah. She's not messing around.
She's not. She's a warrior, a leader, a true high lady.
And she's not afraid to use her powers.
Remember how she said she was going to smash Hybern to bits? She meant it.
She really did. And she puts everything on the line to protect her court, her people, her family.
It's inspiring, to see her embrace her power like that.
And her sisters, too, Elaine and Nesta, they find their own ways to contribute.
Even though they've been through so much.
Yeah, they both have those connections to the cauldron, which turns out to be super important.
Right. Nesta helps track its movements, which disrupts Hybern's plans.
And Elaine, she forms this unlikely bond with the bone carver.
Of all people, right?
And that ends up being a key part of the final confrontation.
It shows that even the quietest characters can have a huge impact.
And it goes to show strength comes in all forms.
Absolutely. It's not just about physical strength or magical power. It's about resilience, courage, and love. And speaking of the final confrontation.
Oh man, the ending.
The ending.
No spoilers, of course.
Of course.
But let's just say it's intense.
It's a roller coaster. You're on the edge of your seat the whole time.
Maas doesn't hold back. There are losses, there's heartbreak.
But there's also hope.
Yes, definitely hope. And a sense that even though the war is over, the journey isn't.
It leaves you with so many questions.
So many questions.
And it makes you want to dive right into the next book.
Which is exactly what we'll be doing in our next deep dive.
Can't wait. But for now, I think it's time to wrap things up.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
A lot of ground.
And I hope our listeners are just as blown away by A Court of Wings and Ruin as we are.
It's a book that stays with you.
It really does. So what are some key takeaways you hope our listeners will ponder?
Well, I think this book reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope. We just have to find it. And that love, family, and courage, those are the things that really matter in the end.
So well said. And it's a good reminder for all of us, no matter what challenges we're facing in our own lives.
Exactly.
So until next time, listeners, happy reading.
And remember, even in the busiest of lives, there's always time for a good deep dive.
Thanks for listening to Witter, Who Has Time to Read? Produced by One Media. Please support the author by purchasing the book or audiobook using the link in the description. It's a great way to help keep the art of writing alive. And stay in the loop. Subscribe to our newsletter for updates on weekly deep dives. And don't forget to share your thoughts or suggest our next deep dive at witterpodcast@gmail.com.